Look at the center of the Indian flag. That 24-spoked wheel is the Ashoka chakra. It's a symbol representing motion, progress, and most importantly, universal peace. The man who gave us that symbol, Emperor Ashoka, exported Buddhism across Asia, planted trees along trade routes, and built monuments like the Sarnath lion capital that sit proudly in museums today. He is history's philosopher king. But those monuments hide a horrifying origin story. That legacy of profound peace is actually rooted in oceans of human blood. The man history remembers as its greatest pacifist was actually born from its most terrifying warlord. Before he was the great peacemaker, he was known as Chand Ashoka, fierce Ashoka. To secure the Mauryan throne, historical texts record that he executed his own brothers, purging anyone who stood in his way. This map shows the scale of his ambition. Under Ashoka, the Mauryan Empire rapidly consumed nearly the entire subcontinent, stretching all the way from the mountains of Afghanistan deep into South India. This visualization breaks down the military machine that made that expansion possible. Ashoka commanded a standing army of roughly 600,000 foot soldiers, 30,000 cavalry, and a terrifying vanguard of 9,000 armored war elephants. He had absolute dominance over his known world. His arrogance left only one small, defiant territory on the map that he had yet to crush. That territory was Kalinga, located in modern-day Odisha. Kalinga was a highly prosperous maritime hub, operating vast trade networks that reached across Southeast Asia. Because of that wealth, they possessed a fierce, deeply ingrained culture of independence. They were the only major state that consistently refused to submit to Mauryan supremacy. But Kalinga didn't have a massive professional army to defend that independence. When the threat of invasion arrived, their defense relied on ordinary citizens, farmers, merchants, and women, who picked up swords and spears to protect their homes. In 261 BCE, these two forces collided. It was a tyrant demanding total subjugation against a civilization fighting for its right to exist. The battle was heavily asymmetrical. Ashoka's elite forces and armored elephants easily shattered Kalinga citizen soldiers, trampling makeshift defenses and overrunning the villages. This chart shows the sheer scale of the resulting destruction. The Mauryan army killed at least 100,000 people and dragged another 150,000 away as slaves. The slaughter was so overwhelming that the corpses choked the valley. According to historical accounts, the waters of the nearby Daya River literally ran red with human blood. Ashoka had secured the territory, but only by systematically eradicating the people who lived there. When dusk finally fell, the war drums stopped. Ashoka stepped down from his chariot and walked entirely alone into the smoke-filled, silent battlefield. He didn't see the glory of an expanded empire. He saw tens of thousands of rotting corpses, terrified widows staring blankly into the ash, and orphaned children crying next to the bodies of their parents. The sheer gravity of what he had authorized crushed him. The emperor dropped his weapon in the mud and fell to his knees. Horrified by the cost of his own absolute victory, Chand Ashoka died that night in the dirt of Kalinga. What happened next is incredibly rare in human history. Instead of throwing a victory parade, the emperor publicly repented, permanently renounced violence, and embraced the pacifist teachings of Buddhism. To ensure his sins were never covered up by future historians, he literally carved his deep regrets and apologies into massive stone pillars and placed them across his empire. An absolute monarch issuing a permanent, public apology for his own military conquests was entirely unheard of in the ancient world, which leaves us with a difficult question to answer today. Do we call him Ashoka the Great because he possessed the military strength to conquer the subcontinent? Or do we give him that title because of the man he became, the emperor who slaughtered hundreds of thousands, who then spent the rest of his life planting trees and spreading a global message of peace? Ashoka's legacy rests on a choice that few absolute monarchs ever make. He looked at the summit of his power and decided to walk away from it.